we mentioned before about the referrals. Is there a need for more foster carers? Is that, is that something you would strongly ask for? And what would you say to anyone who's thinking about fostering?
I think there's always a need for foster carers. We always have more referrals than we can deal with. And sometimes, I know I go back to the siblings, but this week I've had two sets of groups of 3 siblings that we haven't been able to place. And I thought, oh gosh, wouldn't it be lovely if somebody's got the room, if you've got the skills. Now, you don't necessarily need to be Einstein to be a foster carer, but what you do have to have is a lot of emotional intelligence. And I think patience and tolerance. You've got to be able to distract children when actually, when you're sort of, you can feel that they're tapping into your Achilles heel. And that's where social workers come in to help to support you to sort of carry on with fostering. But there's always a need for parent and child foster carers. And people might think, oh my, do parents and children go into foster care? Yes, they do, believe it or not. So what happens is a parent who might be struggling, they may have had children removed from them before, they get referred, and then you act as a mentor, usually for about 12 weeks. They come and stay with you, and there's a big plan around how you might manage sort of those placements. And then at the end of that plan, there's a conclusion, and you're not sort of working on your own, you're part of a bigger puzzle. So we always need parent and child placements, and it's slightly different from siblings or even teenagers sort of coming into the agency, because actually sort of it's short term. It's 12 weeks that you would be looking after these parents and their children. Sometimes they're older parents and their children, but they've never had that sense of knowing how to parent. They've never been parented. So it can be a little bit of a shock to sort of be teaching them sort of the basics, but what a wonderful thing to do. I've always thought, well, that's wonderful that you can change someone's life like that. Yeah. Then we have the sibling groups that I've talked about. So people sort of, if you've got 2 or 3 children that you can foster, that's brilliant. You can only foster 3 because that's your children's home. So up to 3, that's fabulous. And then we've got teenagers, and sometimes people are put off by teenagers, but you know what? I always had a huge caseload of teenagers in the local authority, because no matter what they said, or they might swear, or they might kick off, or what have you, what's surprising to me is teenagers remind me, and it's been sort of backed up with research about the brain, about toddlers. They kick off, they stamp their feet, they might lie down horizontal in bed and just grunt at you when you ask them to do things or you want something from them. But actually the brain's developing again when they get to teenagers. The folds are all sort of merging, the synapses are all joining up. So it's another period of brain growth. And actually, I think sort of if you're with them through all those trials and tribulations, if you think back to your teenage years, you don't know what you're doing, where you're going, what you should be doing, how you should be presenting, then actually you've got a mentoring role in that as well, just to sort of stick by them, accept them for who they are, guide them along. And a lot of our teenagers will sort of leave foster care, and they'll come back at a certain stage and say, oh, I know that I was really awful to that foster carer, and I didn't do this right, and I didn't do that right, and what have you. But weren't we all awful as teenagers? Because that's what teenage life is about. You're breaking the umbilical cord to go out into the wide world yourself. You're making your own decisions. It's just that worrying time for everybody. But I think at least with teenagers, you get the chance to, they can come out with you, they can be involved in different activities that they may never have done in their whole life. And so I think there's different placements that people get into that they want. We've just approved some carers that want just teenagers. And I think, oh, that's good as well, because somebody that's been referred likes horse riding. Well, they live in the country, so they can do the horse riding with them. They like to be involved in activities. And so you can relive your childhood, not through the little ones, but actually through teenagers sometimes. And that can be a wonderful experience as well.